Hi guys, what are we gonna do today? I know it's not fall yet, but if you're a maker, you might want to start working on stuff for fall. What do you think? What do you think? So we're gonna do this. Let's get started. So to make this, you're going to need paper. You could use cardstock, but I found just like a heavier weight just paper. This is a craft paper, worked really, really well. Now you can get colored paper and then you don't need to color your centers or your petals, or you can just use brown paper and paint or ink them. What I have here is 4 sheets of 8.5 by 11, and that will be for the gold. And I'm using 3 sheets 7 by 11. So I just cut 1.5 inches off, and I'm using 3 sheets for the center. This gold paper, or it's like light yellow, is actually this paper. I just sprayed on both sides lightly with dispersed oxide spray, and it's mustard seed. And I'm gonna make the center a darker brown. So with these papers that I've already lightly sprayed, I want it to be a little golder. And so I am using this gold ink. This is an IOD and it's called turmeric. But you can use any yellow, gold ink, or whatever color you want the outside of your flower to be. And I'm using my brayer. You really could just rub it on there, or just use gold paper. So I'm gonna do both sides, and I'm gonna do all 4 sheets. So I did all 4 sheets of these in this dark gold. And now I'm going to do these 3 smaller sheets that are 7 by 11, and I'm gonna do them in a brown. And once again, you can just get a dark colored paper. You can paint it, you can stain it, you could do whatever you like. I just thought I would do it this way. And I'm gonna do both sides on all 3 of these sheets. So after you've inked all your papers, I'm taking all 3 of my brown pieces and putting them together. You can do them singly. I'm folding them in half, so now they are 11 by 3.5. And what you're gonna wanna do is do fringe cuts. And I have the fold section facing towards me, and I am just going to do small slices, and I'm gonna go to about 1/2 inch from the top. And you can do these as thick or as thin as you would like. These are probably between 1/8 and 1/4 inch. And this paper is light enough, I can go through all 3 sheets folded in half at once. So it's really not that bad to do. Make sure you don't cut all the way through the end. And if you need a guide, just take a pencil and draw a little line about 1/2 inch from there, and then you'll know not to go any further than that. So I'm done with that, so now I'm gonna open them up. Now I don't necessarily really want these sharp edges, so if they don't kind of fold out, you can just take a piece of parchment paper, put it over the top, and I'm just gonna do a quick iron over it, and I'll show you how much flatter it makes it. So I iron these, and you can see they're a little flatter. I'm gonna put these aside, and then we're gonna get to our gold pieces. Now you can either do 1, 2, 3, or all 4 again, all in one. It might be a little thick with 4, so I think I'm gonna do 2 and 2. So this is 11 inches long by 8.5, so this, when you fold it in half, will be 4 1/4. Now I'm gonna show you something else fun. If you happen to have one of these, or if you even have fringe scissors that do 3 cuts at a time, that's also very nice. I happen to have one of these scoreboards, but it's an old Martha Stewart, and it made lanterns. So if you're using this scoreboard, you're going to, this down here will only cut to here, so you don't need to worry about that. So I'm just bringing this to the bottom, so there will already be a gap. The folded end is gonna go at the top. So all I'm gonna do is just slice in between these, and you're gonna see how quickly this goes. but I still have to do one more set of cuts. So if you don't have a tool like this, you know, just cut it the way you would cut the other one. It really wasn't that bad when you were doing them all at once. So you can see these are a lot larger fringe. And if I really wanted them the same size as the other, I'd have to cut 2 lines in between. I'm just gonna cut 1 in between. So this is closer to a 1/4 inch. So you can see the folded edge is towards me now again. So these fringes are gonna be a little wider since I use this tool and I'm just cutting in between. And I could cut 2 strips in between, but if I really wanted to do that, I would just cut the whole thing then. So whichever way you wanna cut your fringe, you wanna do this with all 4 of these gold pieces also. And you still have this leeway. It's probably a little bit bigger than the other one, but not much. Okay. So after you have all of them cut, I'm gonna start with the brown pieces, which is the center. I am going to use a double stick tape down at this open end. And we are gonna be taping the 2 ends together, but we're doing it at an angle. So this corner will be about 1 inch from this end. To lay it flush there so the 2 lines are flat. So it will be hanging over about 1 inch, 1/2 inch, it's about 1 inch I guess, on both ends. I'm gonna do that to all 3 of these brown pieces. So I'm laying them flat and flush on top of each other. So the inside edge of this will be laying on the inside edge of this. I'm just moving it over a tad bit. And you can also use hot glue if you would like. Let's do this last piece. What we're gonna do next is we are going to roll these. You're taking one of the ends and you can see that they're going more at an angle because of the way we tape them. Now, but I just wanna show you, I'm just rolling it up and you can roll it very tightly, or you could roll it looser. This is gonna be in the middle. I'll probably roll it a little tighter than I'm doing it now. So it's giving you an idea of what it's looking like. Is stick another piece of this double stick tape along this bottom edge. Again, you can use glue or hot glue, whatever you would like. So I'm gonna roll this just a little tighter than I just did. But it doesn't need to be super, super tight. And I'm just going to roll it. And the double stick tape will secure it. And you can try to keep the bottom as straight as you can. I know it feels like it's getting really jumbly up at the top, but it really does look cool when you're done. So just try to keep this edge as straight as you can. So this is our first one. So what I'm gonna do is take my next piece, put tape along the bottom again. I'm gonna find where I ended off here and add this right to here and keep going around. So I'm gonna do this with all 3 of these and keep attaching around. So if you're doing the tape and it's not holding real well, you can just add a little drop of hot glue, or you can just use hot glue to do this. And keep trying to push this down so they stay about an even height. So here's my last brown piece I have. I'm gonna add that. and go around. And when I get to the end of this, I'm gonna just put a little hot glue on the end to hold it really, really tightly. And then we're gonna start with our gold pieces. So I'll just put hot glue here to make sure it's held real, real tightly. So for the gold, we're doing the same thing. You can see I cut kind of crooked. So there's a couple in here I ripped, so I just pulled them out because it's not gonna affect anything. I am going to use tape on these also, but once again, you could just use hot glue. And on these, we are going to glue the two ends together, but we're not gonna move it an inch from the edge. We're gonna lay them flush on top of each other. Do that with all four of these. Okay, so for these, we're gonna start and we're gonna do the exact same thing. Now, this is a little trick that if it's kind of hard to get it lined up, you can kind of lightly fold this right there where it's not cut. And then it makes it a little easier. So I'm gonna do one here with tape to show you. I may just hot glue these. You're gonna do the same thing, bending them and bringing it around and doing that with the last four of these that we've got. And I said, if you're using tape and it's not holding, go ahead and use hot glue. I may have to do that at this point. So I am just going to use my hot glue and do this one and then start the next one, and then the last one. Okay, so I got all these glued on. You can see I used the hot glue gun and you just went around. And you can see since these are a little longer, they stick out. Now this is the time where you can decide you could spray a little more color on these, wrap this up with a bag, and then just spray some brighter gold or maybe speckle with some black or do some antiquing. The one thing I am gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of a seal on it. I'm gonna get my polyacrylic and it's just gonna give it a little more durability. So I'm using a little bit of my vintage photo distressing and just doing a little on the edges here. And then I'm gonna use my polyacrylic. And you can skip this step altogether, but it also gives it, because it'll make some of the paper a little darker, and it gives me a little more interest and dimension on here. See how it's making it a little shiny? You don't need to do any of this. Actually, at this point, if I would have had a spray sealer, that's probably what I would have done. But I don't. So I'm just gonna wipe this on a bit. Almost pouncing it on there carefully, hit and miss. So you can see when we roll these papers up at an angle, it goes more of a circular angle. And actually, if you're using a sealer, then you can also mold your flower a little more. And then when I did these straight, they laid out. See a couple little pieces that I broke, but you can see it really does not make a difference on this. It is still really nice and full. So now you could either just put a round cardboard backing on the back. You could put it on a big stick like we did, just a stick from outside, a piece of a log or a tree, use it as a centerpiece, add some big leaves, do a little speckling to it, splatter with a little black maybe, or whatever you would like. So I found a fun stick from the backyard. I found this circle. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it a lot smaller, and it doesn't need to be perfect. And if you really wanted the back to be pretty, cut it perfectly, cover it with burlap or paint it, and it would be just adorable. Now this will give me enough stability in here. So I am going to hot glue this onto the back of here. And then I'm going to hot glue my stick to this cardboard. So I'm going to glue this, and then I'm also going to put a tape over it. And then you could even take a piece of burlap or some fabric, any fabric or paper, and decoupage over the top of this if you want the back to be really pretty. hope you thought this was fun. I'm gonna show you some differences on some different ones I did. This was the very first one I did. Both of these were 8.5 inches wide. And I used 3 for the brown and 3 for the gold, and I hand cut them all, and they were very, very thin. So that is one look. The one we actually did, you can see I hand cut the center, but I made the center 7 inches tall, so it didn't stick up quite as much. So if you really wanted to stick out a lot further, do 8 inches and 8 inches. This one I even added a little bit of brown paint, just a little bit of a splash on the top of the center to make it just a little bit browner. This one, we just used some of our dyes and inks. And here was another one that I did. I did 4 in the center and I did 5 in the back. And they're cut a little thicker, and I actually painted all the paper and sealed all the paper before I put it together. So it seems a lot heavier and sturdier and brighter. So it depends if you want the more organic look or something much brighter, but it also shows you the differences on the width you use and how many you use. So you can see the difference between the painted and the organic look. And also on this one, you can see, and the other one, I added some fun sticks and even some dried greenery that I had, and tied some burlap and some sari silk on here. So you could attach this to almost any. So you could also put these on a bunting. How about a bunting? Put these every other one and maybe put a crow in the center. I bet you can come up with a lot of other ideas. So depending on the look you want, what you're going to do with them, you can just change them up a bit. You could even make them into different type of flowers with different colors. Hope you give this a try, but whatever you do, have fun.